Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com, and I got a question about the demand for programming jobs. Will it increase or will it go down the toilet? Will it decrease? Will it go down? Ooh, who knows? Let me pull out my crystal ball and we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to answer this, but before I do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful, beautiful, lovely sponsor, Hire.com. You can check them out if you go to hire.com/simpleprogrammer, and you want to use that link, and I'll tell you why. It's because you'll get $2,000 instead of $1,000 when you get a job with Hire.com. Yes, they actually pay you a commission to get a job. That's pretty dang cool. That makes a lot of sense. Pretty good incentive. I don't know the last time I got paid to actually get a job, from a recruiter at least. So anyway, they're pretty cool. I like them. I checked out their service. That's why I agreed to allow them to sponsor. As you know, I don't have very many sponsors here because not too many people will sponsor my crazy ass videos, and that I actually like. So it's a good combination. Anyway, they basically flip the job search on their head. They make it so that you fill out one app and then a bunch of companies come to you based on your application. That makes a lot of sense to me rather than sending out 500 resumes, which I always tell you not to do anyway. So go check them out, hire.com/simpleprogrammer, and let's get on to the question. So, hi John. First, thanks for the great videos that you're uploading. They have helped me a lot in many ways. I would like to know your opinion about the future of programming jobs field. The demand for programming will decrease? Will the demand decrease? For example, what happened to the system admins or the network admin? What? How could you say that? What happened to the system admins or network admins? They're still here, baby. What are you talking about? No, okay, I get what you're saying. All right, that's kind of harsh, but okay, I get it. The demand for this job is decreasing a lot because of the cloud. Also, the computer repair business, once lucrative, today is almost dead. That's a good point. I remember trying to get my A+ certification. That was interesting. But there's iPhone glass repair. Those guys, right? What's the guy? What's the YouTube guy that does the live repairs? Dang it! I just forgot his. Man, I feel like such a schmuck because I forgot his name, but I gotta look it up. I'm gonna link to his channel. I owe him that respect because is it Lewis? I think is his name. I owe him that respect because I just forgot his name. So I'm taking the time. You're gonna have to wait here a minute while I look this up. Because this guy is awesome. He's a good guy. Louis Rossman. Let's check out. Let's give him a free plug for his channel. Louis Rossman. Yeah, he's an awesome, good dude. I like him. Anyway, let's get back to the question. So anyway, he says, so what about programming? I'm not talking about for big companies, but for medium and small companies, will they hire less and less programmers in the future? Thanks again. So this has already happened to some degree. Oh, WordPress. But so let's look at WordPress. So I think this will probably be a good thing to talk about. That's a good example here of what's happening in the programming field, right? I did this video on on programmers in the future, like that talked about will there be and I talked more about AI and automation, but I want to talk about what's happening now, right? Because you brought up the idea that system admins and network admins are disappearing. Okay, are they? Or are they transforming? Same thing about computer repair business. Are they disappearing or are they transforming, right? And so let's talk about programmers, and maybe we'll get to the system admins and stuff like that, right? So programmers in WordPress, let's talk about that. So it used to be that if you wanted a website, right? If you're a mom and pop pizza store, whatever, and erotic movie retailer, you needed a website, so you needed a programmer. You needed a web developer to code you up some HTML, some CSS, get you a shopping cart, right? All this stuff. And then WordPress comes along, and suddenly you can have a blog, but you still need that programmer to code you up that fancy shopping cart until Magento and OpenCart and WooCommerce and DPD and Shopify and all this stuff came along, right? And so now you need a programmer even less, right? Because all these guys, they can do this. This stuff is already out there, right? They built all this stuff for you, so I can be non-technical. I can set up a whole blog and a shopping cart and have a storefront in like a day and take payment through Stripe and PayPal. Easy. That's easy stuff, right? It used to be really hard. It used to be you needed a programmer to do all that stuff. So did all those programmer jobs disappear? No. In fact, there's more. I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. One, first reason is because it grew. So a ton of people need websites now, right? Before, there was less of a market, and yes, there was programmers, but because it's become accessible, there's a lot more entrepreneurs. There's a lot more people selling online, and so then you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not a good reason. That means that there's just less programmers because they're just using the software. But that's where you're wrong. Because guess what? All of these things require plugins, right? Because WordPress out of the box doesn't do exactly what you want. Shopify out of the box doesn't do exactly what you want. WooCommerce out of the box doesn't do exactly what you want, right? So there's all of these plugins. You go look at WordPress, right? Go look at the database and see how many plugins there are, right? And how many paid plugins there are. And go look at Shopify and go look at Magento and OpenCart or whatever it is. All that stuff. Tons and tons of plugins. So the developer role changed. It changed from, and it became more entrepreneurial. It changed from web developer who does HTML and CSS and some basic stuff for you to someone who specifically writes plugins for these bigger platforms. And so that's what's happening right now, and that's how roles are changing, and you can see that happening in a lot of places in the future. Salesforce eliminated a lot of software developer jobs, but it created a whole bunch of software developer jobs because now you have all these plugins to Salesforce and integrations, right? So all of these things right now that are changing are building different kinds of developer jobs, right? Look at the gaming industry, right? It used to be that there were game developers wrote game engines. That's what a lot of the time they spent was actually writing the game engine. Now there's Unity 3D. Everyone uses Unity 3D. There's a couple other game engines, but essentially everyone uses a core set of game engines, and no one's implementing the game loop and doing all this old stuff, right? I did Pluralsight courses. You can check them out on game development, and I showed you how to create a game, basically creating your own game engine from scratch. You can still do that, but you don't need to. Now game developers are operating at a different level, and they have a different level of skill set. So what happens is that programming as you know it does die, it does disappear, but it changes, it morphs, right? Instead of being a web developer who can develop a basic storefront or whatever, you're a plugin developer extending a framework, extending this software, and that becomes more valuable. We're going to see more and more of that, and it also gives you an entrepreneurial opportunity, because now all of these developers can actually build a business making WordPress plugins, right? Or offer one WordPress plugin. And so there's a lot of value to that. Same thing with Shopify. It has all these other things that happen as this grows. Well, now let's get to the network admins and what happened to those guys. Well, the system admins and network admins, they still exist, but they're more so becoming DevOps, right? So their skill set is changing, right? Even as we're moving to the cloud and stuff, it's becoming more so that now, in order to be a admin, you have to know a little bit more development, and you got to be know the build system and do these kind of infrastructure type of things that are more on the development in the full life cycle of the project type of thing. And that's just how it goes. So those jobs are evolving, but there still are plain network admins, Linux admins. The guy that runs my server, he's a straight up Linux admin, right? But he's really knowledgeable. He's got to be really good. So there's like a fewer of them, because it's easier to get a server, I can pop up a droplet on DigitalOcean, right? And bam, I can have that running, or AWS, and have that running and have cloud services running. But sometimes when I need custom stuff, I need a really, really good expert, or I need someone who understands how to integrate all this stuff. It's more, these network admins and stuff are becoming more technology. There's a few different roles that are spinning off to that, but they're not quite disappearing, right? It's just that the skill set is changing. It's going to kind of a higher level. It's moving with the time. Same thing with the computer repair guys, right? Again, we have disposable electronics. We don't need, laptop repair guys. We just get a new laptop, or we send it, we send it into the company. We don't have as many people repairing their own computers. We don't have as many people building their own computers, right? But we've got all these iPhones now. And so now we've got guys like I said, Rossman and stuff that are that they can fix these things for cheaper. They can do it for $50. They get good at this. There's a mass, they're all built the same way. So whereas computers required very specific troubleshooting, specific to that computer. I remember going through my A+ certification and like going through and SATA and master slave and checking the bus and all this stuff, right? And it's much more systemized. So I think that you're just seeing these things change, right? You're seeing these things evolve, and that's how it's going to be. So will the demand for programming jobs increase or decrease in the future? It's going to increase. It's going to increase because there's going to be, as we get more technology, as we expand out more, as we create more WordPresses of the world, and we automate more software, there's going to be more plugins. There's going to be more extensibility on that software, and someone's going to have to create the next layer up, right? Eventually though, again, in my other video I talked about the far, far future, and I think at that time we're going to have AI, we're going to have things like that. But even still, I would even still say that doesn't mean we're not going to have programmers. We're just going to have different types of programmers. It's going to be things that you can't conceive right now. If you could conceive them, you'd be rich, right? If you could have seen the whole WordPress thing, you would have started developing WordPress plugins when WordPress was just a baby. And you would have had the cornerstone, the corner of the market there. But you didn't see that. If you would have seen the App Store and the mobile apps, you would have built Angry Birds and all this shit. But you don't see that. You come in a little too late to the game, but different types of programmers. It's always changing, right? Desktop developers are back. They're just building mobile apps now, because now we're doing native development on mobile. So, the web was supposed to kill all that, but it didn't, did it? So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Definitely check out our sponsor, Hire.com/simpleprogrammer. Check them out. And if you like this video, if you'd like to know what my thoughts are about whether or not there's still going to be veterinarians in the future, because I'll be talking about that at some time, you got to click the subscribe button, otherwise you might miss that video. I'm serious, you got to click it. Anyway, if you're already subscribed, thumbs up is always appreciated, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.